they probably spent an hour telling me all about how there were all these like ghosts and monsters in the basement and all these other things. And eventually they just picked me up, threw me in the basement, and locked me down there for like 2 hours. I remember screaming and punching that door and everything else. And like, you know, again, it was just like, when they finally let me out, it was just like, tell anybody, I'll kick the living shit out of you. And honestly, knowing who you are helps you weather the storm of life.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, I like, you know, anybody out there in the world can say whatever the fuck they want about me or anything like that. I know the content of my own soul. Yeah. I know what I'm capable of. I know who I am. I was forced out on the street, you know, like, and I'm thankful for that now, because I think that that's a lot of the resiliency that I've built up now, and that strength.
I see
because, like, dude, I used to sleep on fucking park benches. This isn't going to break me.
The space you live or work in sets the tone for how you feel and how you show up to the world. If it's dull, worn, or just good enough, you'll feel it every single day. Fresh Coat Surfaces in Murfreesboro, Tennessee doesn't do good enough. They transform homes and businesses with craftsmanship that you can see, quality you can feel, and pride that lasts long after the job is done. From bold statement walls that make you proud to walk in the room, to flawless exterior finishes that turn heads when people pull up, they understand the details that matter. And in The Relentless Pursuit, the details are everything. Whether you're building a business, raising a family, or you just want a space that inspires you, Fresh Coat Surfaces brings that vision to life and makes it last. Fresh Coat Surfaces. Paint your world with purpose, one coat at a time. Have you done this before?
I've done a couple podcasts.
Done a couple?
Yeah.
This is the best one.
Absolutely.
Ready to roll?
Yeah, let's do it.
What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit Podcast. What we do on this podcast is bring in guests from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life to share their journey and everything along the way that led them to where they're at today. In a world full of filters, algorithms, and artificial everything, this podcast is a reminder of what's real. Unfiltered stories, raw emotion, and the kind of human connection that can't be faked. We're here to make an impact, and that is what we do. So if that is for you, like, subscribe, all those wonderful things. And if that is not for you, I don't know what your problem is, but it's time to jump on board today. Thank you. But without further ado, I would love to introduce today's guest, all the way from New York, Mr. Patrick Duggan.
Right on.
Welcome, dude. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, happy to be here, man. I'm glad we were able to make it happen. I remember we first started talking about me coming on the show probably about a year ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, life's been a little crazy. So, you know, finally got to make it down this way.
On both ends, you know, I think the timing is everything.
Yeah.
I think it worked out beautifully now because, one, I'm closer. You being from out of town, I'm a lot closer to where you're staying.
Yep.
So a lot more convenient. And just, I'm loving this space. So it's better for this kind of one-on-one conversation anyways. So it just worked out beautifully.
Yeah, I told you when we were coming in, I love this location. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy for you. It's awesome.
I appreciate that, bro. Yeah, and Patrick and I go way back. We met at a ritual weekend in 2018.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like I am really fuzzy on dates and stuff. So you putting it at 2018 is definitely helpful because I was, you know, it could be anywhere between 2016 and 2019, you know, as far as I'm concerned. But
yeah, it's 2018 because a month after that, I got my accident.
Oh, gotcha. Yes, I do.
So yeah, so it's just the time. Like I'll never forget that time frame because it was like my first weekend at a ritual, and then a month later my accident. I was like, man, that's some big stuff all at once. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, we met then, and we've run into each other maybe once or twice since then, and that's it. But we've always followed each other, stayed in touch a little bit,
stayed connected.
It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it's just awesome to have you here, bro.
Yeah, the kindred spirit, man.
So I'm stoked to have you here, bro.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit first. What does life look like for you today, presently?
So it's interesting because, you know, everything that's led me to this point, but, you know, I got a lot of really awesome things going on right now. Life's pretty good, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm getting married in about 2 months. Technically, I feel like I'm already married, but doing the whole ceremony and the ritual and all
Congratulations.
that kind of stuff. And yeah, dude, it's amazing. It's funny, me and my fiance, it was when I, finally proposed, everybody was kind of like, damn, what took so long? It's like nobody was surprised. But my whole thing is we started talking maybe 2 years into our relationship. We've been together for 5 years now, about trying to buy a house. And I didn't realize that as a new entrepreneur who just started a business, basically they don't like seeing that.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, well, if you worked for somebody, we'd only need to show the X amount of income. We'd only need all this. But since you're a new business and we consider that a high risk, you're going to need to go above and beyond.
Yeah.
And then the way the market was and everything else, I didn't realize it was going to take me like about 3 years to buy a damn house.
Damn. That's why the last house didn't go to my name. We talked about that. Yeah. Because of small business ownership.
Yep. Exactly.
It's like, hey man, I'm making things happen. Like,
yeah,
I can show you I'm here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it was like, it was frustrating, but it took me a while. And I told myself like, okay, when we get the house, the first night in the house, that's when I'm going to propose. And I didn't realize it was going to take so long.
Like,
and I kept
just trying to propose.
I kept telling myself, I was like, maybe you should just do it now. Maybe you should just do it soon. And I'm like, no, stick to the plan.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Hell yeah.
Just stick to it. So when we finally got the house, which was about a year ago, we moved in. I did just that. And again, everybody was like, about time. We'd been living together for quite a while at that point and everything. And she manages my tattoo studio and all this other stuff. And, it's, so we got that. I actually got my bachelor party coming up in like 6 weeks, which is really funny because I wasn't originally planning on doing a bachelor party. I'm sober. I've been sober for a good 5 years now.
Yeah.
Completely nothing at all. So I'm not really interested in like going out and bars and strippers and all that kind of stuff that people usually do. Now my thing, so what I did is I went through the invite list for our wedding. I basically put every single guy that was invited, made a big group chat, and I was like, hey, this is going to be my bachelor party. If you want to come, sign up. It was an ultra marathon, trail ultra marathon. So I'm doing a 50 miler 2 weeks before a 50-mile trail.
Hell yeah. So, dude, that's badass.
And dude, a lot of people were like, fuck you, man. But the cool thing is this race, you could sign up for multiple different distances.
Yeah.
They had everything from a 10 miler all the way up to a 150 miler.
Damn.
So the 10 miler is actually, it's a night run. So you like on this Saturday, I'm going to be starting at 7 a.m. So I'll start tearing up some miles, and then at 7 p.m., the nighttime 10-miler starts, which pretty much everybody who would sign up is signing up for the 10-miler. So I think I got about a dozen guys showing up for the nighttime 10-miler.
That's badass.
So then I'm going to do that because it's a 10-mile loop, this track.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that one with them. I'm hoping that'll probably be at least lap 3 for me at that point. I'll do that one with them, and then I got 2 more to go after that to get to the full 50. But so basically I'll have about a dozen pacers for lap 3.
Good shit, dude. I'm stoked for you, man. That's like the coolest bachelor party ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody else doesn't think so. But, and I have a new tattoo apprentice. My prior apprentice has been working for me for several years now. He's absolutely killing it, but I just recently took on another. So I'm teaching him how to tattoo. And the funny thing is he's a very quiet, soft-spoken guy.
Yeah.
And completely unlike my other tattooer. He's like boisterous as hell, like fucking loud motherfucker.
Yeah.
But he says like the most lewd and outlandish shit constantly. It's funny. It's like a constant comedy act, but he's like, absolute degenerate. Heart of gold, but absolute degenerate.
I love it, dude.
But he, my new apprentice, when I mentioned that I was doing the 50 miles, he's like, I'll do the 50. And I'm like, dude, maybe you didn't hear me. Like, I can hardly hear you. Like I said, I didn't say 15. I said 50. He goes, yeah, I'll do the 50.
Just like that. Yeah. Dude, I love that.
You ever done a race before? He's like, no.
He's just down.
He does jujitsu. So, I mean, he's got like at least a decent gas tank. But I'm like, yeah, dude, I mean, a 50-mile trail run's a little serious. He's like, no, let's go.
Hey, send it.
Yep. It's just me and him. But yeah, it's technically my first. I've done a couple of like road 10Ks and stuff. And I've run marathon distances on my own.
Yeah. Like
not in a race. Both on trails and on the road. So I'm feeling pretty good about it, especially since like I have a lot of time to finish.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing where you start Saturday morning and you have till 6 a.m. on Monday to finish.
Damn.
So there's plenty of time. I could realistically walk a large portion of it and I'll still finish. So
Dude, you're gonna crush it. I'm stoked to see how you do.
yeah,
You have to update me.
the eventually hope is I want to do a full Ironman, and I was actually already signed up for a 70.3.
Yeah.
But sadly I had to drop out of that one. Just had too much stuff going on with the business and everything.
Yeah.
Because that was going to be in Indiana, and I just couldn't swing traveling out there for that. But
It's a lot of preparation too.
yeah,
You
I
know?
wasn't feeling very confident with the swim, to be honest with you. It's really funny to me because when you tell people you're like, oh, I got to work on swimming, it's like most people are like, oh, well, I swim in my parents' pool all the time. And I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about. Like, you've never been in open water swimming.
Yeah.
You know, getting the technique proper and to be able to do it for, 2.5 miles is like pretty serious,
That's no joke.
I've been a cyclist for like my whole life, so I'm like confident on the cycling. I've
Yeah.
done over 100 miles a bunch of times. Stacking that with the run is definitely challenging. I mean, for anybody out there who doesn't know, it's like a 2.5 mile swim. Then you hop on the bike, you do 112 miles on the
Yep.
bike, and then you do a full marathon run,
Yep.
26.2 miles after that. So stacking those on top of each other,
Yeah, dude. I've seen it firsthand. My parents do Ironmans.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, my dad did the world championship in Utah a couple years ago. My dad competed at that one.
Damn.
Yeah, they've done a bunch of fulls. They're about to do the Chattanooga half. They do that one like every year. But yeah, dude. So I know exactly what you're talking about because I've been going to these things for years, man.
That's
and
amazing.
rooting them on. Yeah, it's badass, dude. My dad's he was a college swimmer and stuff too. He swam in high school, all that. So the swim is his thing. My mom had a lot of overcoming to do that open water swim. Because you panic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can't see. There's a ton of people behind you. You're getting around you. You're getting kicked and shit.
I thought Indiana would actually be a good choice for my first one because it's in a lake.
Oh yeah. What is it? Muncie?
It's in Muncie. Yeah.
Muncie. Yeah, they've done that one.
Which, I mean, we got friends in Muncie. I mean, Sean's from Muncie.
Yeah.
And then, Cody as well and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So some mutual friends that we have.
That's sick, dude. Well, hey, you'll get to it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a 70.3 in New York. I might sign up for that at one point, but really the eye is on the full one.
Hell yeah.
Which the only New York full Ironman, I think, is Lake Placid, which I hear is absolutely brutal and not very friendly for first timers. But yeah. So
Sounds
we'll
like
see.
a challenge.
Yeah. Maybe I'll sign up for that one. I do spend a lot of time in South Florida too, which apparently that one's pretty good. So
Yeah.
I might do that one. We'll see.
Sweet, dude. And you're gonna make it happen for sure.
Yeah.
You said something about life is about becoming a better leader. What does that mean to you?
It's something I've consistently come back to because for me, like, I feel like my journey started out with me trying to almost lead myself towards like the things that I knew were good for me and away from the things that maybe I grew up with and were bad for me. And then over time like that, once I had like proven to myself that track record,
Yeah.
then basically it was like a rising tide rises all boats. I started like pulling up some of the people around me.
Of course.
Then over time, like that was a very informal thing, but a lot of my friends would come to me and be like, dude, thank you so much for like giving me advice on this or that or the other thing. I was always the guy that my friends came to like, hey man, like, how can I, do a little bit of what you do? How can I like improve on this or improve on that?
Super cool.
And over time, that's just gotten more and more formal. Once I started my own business, it was just me and my like one apprentice that didn't end up working out. I learned a lot through that. Then, I hired an assistant that didn't go well. I made some good decisions. I made some bad decisions, but I was a first-time business owner.
Dude, trust me, I feel you. You learned some tough stuff.
I did management before that. I did retail early on. And then I was managing a tattoo studio and then, started my own tattoo studio. And now I just started another business that I'm kind of doing myself and just starting to build that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, and this is specifically a coaching business. So again, it's like, I feel like almost the trajectory of my life as an adult almost feels like to this point, it's just been increasing levels of kind of like leadership.
Dude, that's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that perspective. It always brings me back to something a friend of mine said that I always think of it. Be a lighthouse, not a tugboat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's a true leader. You can lead by like dragging people along, but you ain't going to be at your best. But if you're that lighthouse and you stand there just firm in your stance and you shed that light out and people come to you, that's even better. You can help a lot more.
Not for nothing if I was a tugboat, it's like when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
And when you're a tugboat, it's your nature to drag people along. And, like I've had a lot of toxic deadweight people in my life, throughout my life. And I think if I had that tugboat mentality, I would still be holding on to them and they'd be sucking my energy dry.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like sometimes you just got to let people go and recognize that you can't fix everything. You can't fix everyone.
No.
And you're better off like saving your energy for the people who are actually there ready to receive it.
I resonate with that so deeply. Let's talk about the power of names.
Cool.
Because you've had a few. So what would you say, what's behind all that?
So when I was born, my father was never really in my life. My mom was still in high school. My dad was like an older outlaw biker, actually. He was in a motorcycle club. And my grandmother kind of took on a lot of taking care of me and stuff because my mom was still not finished with high school and everything. And my grandmother never really wanted my father around. When I didn't know this until I was, you know, of age, much older, like out of high school even, that like the situation with my dad, I just knew he wasn't around.
Yeah.
But when I was born, I had his last name. Then my mom changed it to her maiden name for a good while. And then my mom remarried, so I took on his name. So I've had 3 names, last names in my life. And then, you know, obviously through like playing in bands and stuff and everything, you pick up like various pseudonyms and stuff. I picked up my tattoo name, which was Biker Witch 666 many years ago, which was kind of a joke that basically, try and sum up long story made short, a good friend of mine, a fellow musician guy that I grew up with and stuff, he stole like a nice cardigan sweater that I had.
Yeah.
And he was roommates with another friend of mine. He came out of his bedroom and he was wearing this cardigan sweater. And he goes, "Isn't that Pat's cardigan sweater?" He goes, "Pat doesn't need this. He's like a leather-wearing biker witch." And my friend came and told me that he had said that the next day, and it was at the tattoo studio because the other guy that we were friends with worked with me at the tattoo studio, and all the other tattooers in the room started laughing their ass off. And they're like, "You should make that your tattoo name, dude.
Yeah, I dig
it.
it.
Should be Biker Witch."
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like actually it kind of came from a friend of mine making fun of me. But, you know, people think that I'm trying to be all like, you know, spooky and everything. And it's just like, I tacked the 666 on the end, kind of, you know, I'm like, yeah, like destroy
Make
your
it more
666.
metal. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So that's how I got that name. And then a couple years ago, I actually got completely nuked off of Instagram. And
No, that goes.
I know that you can relate. I had about like 30,000 followers on Instagram. I had, you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is?
Yeah.
So Gary Vaynerchuk's half of his whole shtick is basically you don't post enough. And at the time I got deleted, I was actually about 30 posts behind Gary Vaynerchuk. I had about 11,000 posts on Instagram, most of which were tattoos and artwork and all kinds of stuff like that. Maybe 10% were kind of like life things.
Yeah.
And I was anticipating when I overtook Gary Vaynerchuk because I was going to screenshot it, send it to him and be like, "You need to post more."
That was like a goal.
Yeah. I was like, I can't wait to crush Gary Vaynerchuk. But yeah, I got nuked right before it. Maybe Gary Vaynerchuk was behind that whole thing. You know, he's got connections. At
I was just thinking that. Yeah, true. He knows somebody at IG. He's like, "Dude, here, come on, just delete this guy's shit. I don't like it." It's catching up.
But the really shitty thing is my fiance, she actually had my Instagram account logged in on her phone because, again, she manages a tattoo shop. So she had access to my Instagram account. She also had it. We got I think we were close to 50K on the shop Instagram account that she had helped build up. Now she's got a pretty big TikTok following, and she really used that to help grow her own social media and then the shop and everything. She was over 100K, but because when I got banned, they banned every single account that was logged in on the same device. So she got her account nuked, the shop account got nuked, my account got nuked. Like it all got taken. And when that happened, I was looking online and basically trying to appeal this whole thing, and they wouldn't allow me to.
Same.
It just said violent and dangerous content. That's all it said.
I got the same thing.
Yep.
I'm like, there's nothing about my shit that's dangerous or violent.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a tattoo artist, you know, like what the hell you want?
Yeah.
But so I found on like a Reddit post or something, they were saying that there was this email address that basically like if you keep emailing them, eventually somebody will answer.
Yeah.
So for like a week straight, I just kept emailing, new emails too. I wasn't even just copying and pasting, like I think I made them unique and was getting nowhere. So what I did is I thought I was being really clever here. I actually saw that they have an office in New York City. Like their main base is like San Francisco, but they have a New York City location. And I looked it up and I'm like, can I actually get in there? I live about 70 miles outside of New York City.
Yeah.
And I was like, can I get in the office? From what I found online, they were saying there's a security booth up front. You can't get up to their floor, like unless you have an appointment or know somebody up there or anything. So I was like, all right, that's not going to work. So what I did was I looked and there was about a block away from their location. There was a, what do they call it? The nocturnal cookies or whatever, or like, I forget.
Insomnia?
Insomnia
Yeah,
cookies.
I remember you saying that. I don't know why. I remember that about. Man, I love cookies. So
I called up the Insomnia cookie that was like a half a block from them and was like, hey, can I get like, I think I bought like $300 or $400 worth of cookies and got them delivered to the office with a note in there that said, hey, my account got deleted. I think that this was a mistake. If you can help me, please text me left my phone number, left my email address, all that kind of stuff. They accepted it. There was half of it was vegan cookies, all this other stuff. Never got a single message.
That's so shitty.
Nothing.
Dude.
$400 worth of fucking cookies, not a word. So then I have a friend. She's a pagan. She's teaches in Los Angeles. She actually recently moved to Dallas, Texas. And she comes out and visits us like all the time, but she's been a professional dominatrix for many, many years.
Oh, shit.
And she's a really interesting chick. She goes by Outlaw Priestess, and I think
I'm friends with her on Instagram.
Owen. Yep.
Yeah.
She's awesome. But she'll come out and visit us all the time and everything. We've been good friends with her for both me and my fiance for many years now. And I originally tattooed her when I came to visit in Los Angeles when she was out there. And she hit us up and was like, hey, I'm so sorry to see that this is happening to you guys with getting deleted off of Instagram and everything. Can I hook you guys up? I know somebody who might be able to help. So through the grapevine in the kind of like sex worker community and all that kind of stuff that she's involved in, she knows of this guy who helps all of these like OnlyFans girls and all this kind of stuff get their accounts back.
Yeah.
And he's got a proven track record and is kind of really known in those circles. So she gave me his contact info. All I know about this guy is he's some kind of like, he's a hacker from the New Orleans area. That's all I know about this guy. And I'm going back and forth with him. He seemed like a pretty cool dude. We got on the phone with him for a little bit, but I don't know much about this guy. He wasn't really letting much on. He sounded like a young dude.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, I've never really dealt with this type of ban. Because like usually I'm dealing with nudity or sexual content. But he's like, if I can do this, then that means it opens up a whole new clientele to me. So I'd be interested in doing this. Let me get your last known login information, all that kind of stuff. I sent it over. A couple hours later, he came back. He's like, I was able to get in kind of preemptively into their stuff. And he told me $3,000 to try to get stuff back. No guarantee you could get it. And so I Venmoed him over $3,000 and he tried for about a month. And I never was able to get in. So I started a new page, but they would not allow me to use Biker Witch 666, Vomachara Tattoo, none of it. Every time I would make one, it would be up for about 4 minutes and it would get deleted immediately.
Dude.
So I couldn't use the names that I had been going by. So I probably one of the most important figures that I've found in my entire life, which I thankfully found very early on and have been spending probably the last half of my life chewing on, was the work of Friedrich Nietzsche.
Yeah.
And Nietzsche pretty famously used to sign a lot of his letters and stuff as the crucified one. So for me, like, and my bio has for years said spiritual outlaw.
Yeah.
So for me, it was kind of like my, F you to Instagram and everything. I made a new account and I made it, the crucified outlaw tattoo.
Yeah.
So that's why I took that name on kind of as a nod to Nietzsche and also as a nod to my kind of outsider status amongst the town square.
Hell yeah.
So another name I picked up.
Dude. How do you keep up?
Yeah, exactly.
I faced it too in a similar way, right? Same kind of
Honestly,
reasons.
I see you doing it too, though. I started concentrating on TikTok, and I'm no fan of the like communist Chinese party. Like I would much rather support the American company. And I was team Instagram for a long time until they really did me dirty.
That brought me a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, and like starting to concentrate on TikTok, I have like 80K on TikTok.
Yeah,
and TikTok's been pretty good to me. Not
Yeah.
for nothing. I was really bummed when they started talking about trying to ban it, because I'm like, dude, this has been a new venue for my business.
You know, it's crazy too, because a lot of people are like, yeah, making fun of people that getting their shit deleted. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like you're just jealous you can't be making that kind of money, because I know some people that are crushing it on TikTok.
Yep.
But two, like, absent of that, there's so many small businesses that use these tools to advertise, to market themselves.
Yep.
Like, that's the whole thing.
And just get a positive message out there. Both you and me, like, we're pretty positive guys. We put out a lot of like really positive content that I think that the world needs more of.
I've talked to people, and a lot of them think because of the beliefs and how the image we portray,
That's what it is. It's
combined with a positive message.
Yep.
It's so
jarring.
It's not supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm supposed to be a little bit more hateful, or maybe, that's
nihilistic.
That's what people, yeah. And so when I'm like having people from completely different viewpoints on my platform, but we're talking about how we connect, connection brings chaos to those powers that be, that division helps them control it a bit. So I think there's something to that. I don't know. I'll never find out, because even, I finally got in touch with Meta, this year, and I'm emailing them back and forth, different people, and every one of them, we just never see anything like this. I don't know who we can send you to. And there's somebody that can do something.
Yep.
That's the frustrating part, but y'all just don't want to send me to them. Anyways, enough about that. We figured it out, right? Hey, there's a book I read. You might have read it. The Obstacle is the Way.
I might have thumbed through it.
Okay.
I read so many of those like self-help type books.
Yeah.
Like, so many of them I'm like, this is like other things I've read. So,
Yeah.
I kind of put it down, but no, I remember seeing that. Was David Derrida was the,
no, I've got it over there. I'll pull it out
okay.
after this. But anyways, just that line, the obstacle's away, and that's how I look at things like that. And
it's okay. like Start With Why, that book, the title alone, like
Start With Why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I come back to just the title all the time. It's become like like anytime you're feeling kind of lost.
Yeah.
Like, Start With Why.
I'm gonna have to write that one down, because I have not read that one. Start With Why. All right, well, let's dive into your story.
Yeah.
A little bit more in depth. So, Patrick, take us back. Take us back to the roots. Young days of Pat.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody called you Pat, but
no.
Well, okay.
It's totally cool.
The early days. Where are you from? Obviously, I hear the northern accent. We don't get a lot of that around here. But yeah, where are you from? Take us through your early days a little bit, and maybe touch on some things that influence who you've become as well.
Okay. It's funny, every time I'm like down here, a lot of our mutual friends and stuff are always like, especially when I get like animated or excited, they're like, he sounds like he's straight out of a fucking mob movie. And like, I don't feel like I have that thick of an accent, but when you go like down here, I guess people pick up on it. But, but yeah, so I was born in Long Island, New York. I was about 65, 70 miles outside of New York City.
Yeah.
People are usually pretty, surprised to see how rural it is out by me.
Yeah.
There's kind of this like point as you're going east on Long Island. People think of the Hamptons, that's the South Shore. I'm on the North Shore. Granted, Long Island is only about 10 miles from the North Shore to the South Shore, but the culture of the North Shore versus South Shore, the North Shore is much more working class. Really, like the people who mow the lawns and shit for the Hamptons live on the North Shore.
Okay. Okay.
So I grew up on the North Shore, Eastern Long Island, but kind of right on the line where you kind of go from rural suburban to mostly farmland.
Okay.
So I'm like literally like one of the last towns before it turns to farmland.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of my friends, especially who come from out of town, they're surprised at how rural it kind of is by us. And the house we just bought is actually right near the beach too, which is really nice and everything. Sweet. But I grew up pretty close to where we just bought the house and where my tattoo shop is, which is in Port Jefferson, New York. Yeah, like I said earlier, my father was in an outlaw motorcycle club. My uncle actually, who was my dad's sister's husband, was vice president of the Long Island chapter of this very infamous outlaw motorcycle club. And I didn't know about this for many years, but it's really interesting because I have a half brother who's very, very different than me.
Yeah.
We grew up together and everything, but like we couldn't be more oil and water as people, aesthetically, and then like, just everything. And it's kind of interesting because I didn't learn about my father till years later. And it's just like I was always the one who was into motorcycles and extreme music and comic books and all this other stuff. And my brother was into like football and, much more just like a typical kind of athletic jock type of dude.
You had more like a lot of interests that your father did.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, yeah.
My stepfather, who adopted me when I was probably around 6, who was my brother's dad. He's much more like my brother, listening to, which was a big part of me growing up, was I had a diverse amount of music around me. But my brother, for the most part, gravitated towards pop music and like pop country, especially. I remember my brother was like a big Garth Brooks fan when I was growing up and stuff. But my mother actually moved me into my grandma's house, which my grandma moved to the United States from Poland, married somebody from Italy. And my grandma was a super sweet lady, but she had a shitload of kids. And the house that we had moved into, me, my brother, my mom, basically just had a lot of my distant family in the house. And we also had probably like damn near 100 pets in this house too. And it wasn't like a terribly big house. And it was the kind of thing where it's like, if one of my aunts or uncles had a friend who was like hard out on their luck, they would just come and stay at our house. Yeah. And like there were just people constantly coming and going.
Grandma was just like, oh, it's all
good.
Yeah,
come on in. And she would, she really raised me. And she was actually for at least very early in my life, she was very eccentric kind of woman. She, if you asked her, she would have told you she was Catholic, but she did a lot of like archangel spells and stuff and that kind of thing.
Interesting.
She had a friend who was like a tarot reader who would come by her house like once a month and do tarot readings for the whole family and that kind of stuff.
That's pretty cool.
It's like, yeah, you say you're Catholic, but you would have been burned at the stake.
Yeah.
Like,
this is not okay. She's breaking the rules a little bit.
Yep, exactly. And then like, typical like, she grew up super poor in Poland and stuff. And, she had all these like weird folk remedies for like anything you were going through. But she actually worked as a secretary at Kings Park Psychiatric Center, which is a pretty famous now, like people think it's haunted and stuff. Psychiatric center that's out on Long Island near me. And she was working there when I was a little kid. I remember her coming home from there. And so I had a bunch of aunts and uncles and stuff that all lived with me, and they all had different music tastes and stuff. I had one uncle that was super cool to me. He actually rode BMX. He did a lot of half pipe competitions and stuff in the 80s.
Hell yeah.
And he was into a lot of punk and thrash metal. My mom was like a classic metalhead, into like your Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, that kind of stuff. Some Iron Maiden, some Judas Priest. And then my uncle was into like Slayer. He showed me Black Flag, the Bad Brains, the Beastie Boys, all that kind of stuff, because he was in that kind of like skater BMX culture.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I had his wife, my aunt, was super into country music. And I remember her playing a lot of Johnny Cash, and I love Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
I thought Garth Brooks had some good songs, some ass songs. She was mostly into like, the Dixie Chicks and all that kind of stuff. And like, the pop country of that era, Keith Urban and all that kind of, maybe some George Strait, that kind of stuff.
Get down with some Johnny Cash out of all those.
But that was the one that stuck out to me.
Yeah. It was a little darker and you feel it.
Yeah, because I was already getting into like, Slayer and stuff and Motorhead and all these kind of things. And I was looking for something that was, I was also watching a lot of horror movies as a young kid. I mean, I'm getting raised by these people who are not much older than me.
Yeah.
Realistically looking back on it. I think I was like 7 when I saw Silence of the Lambs. Like,
Jesus.
Yeah.
I would not show my daughter that.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy to think now. But like, when I was growing up, I remember I was obsessed with like the Friday the 13th movies. And I'm in like elementary school.
Yeah.
Like, like I'm laughing my ass off watching like Jason harpoon teenagers as they like, fucking bunk beds.
Yeah, that's funny as hell. Other kids are like, what the hell is wrong with this guy?
Yeah, so I was interested in like darker stuff, like pretty out of the gate. I got into jumping BMX, which bicycles became a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
When I was probably 3 or 4 years old, because I had that uncle and he taught me how to like jet hop and ride a bike. I actually remember him like pushing me down a big hill outside my house over and over again. I kept falling. He kept picking me up and putting me back on the bike.
Keep going.
He also just like kicked me in a pool once, and that's how I learned how to swim. Just kind of as I was walking by, like, it's kind of, people see that as kind of like, abusive now or anything like that, but I think he had a good heart about it. You know, he was
Yeah.
actually, and sadly enough, I mean, I really feel like for him, he was one of the positive influences as much as he wasn't really much of a scholar. You know, he wasn't very bright between the ears,
Yeah.
I guess, but he was a cool guy, and he turned me on to a lot of cool stuff that ended up really helping me out and being a big part of my life down the line.
Yeah.
Whether that be the bicycles or the music and that kind of stuff. He was into comic books and all that kind of thing. So I remember hanging out in his room a lot, and he would have tapestries of like Megadeth and Metallica and all these like cool things. And I remember he had a couple art books too, and he had all these records. And the funny thing thinking back now is one of the few things he listened to that wasn't like metal or punk was he was big into the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
And I would look at those records, and he had a few tapestries, and there was something about them that just creeped me out.
The Grateful Dead ones?
Yeah, dude, I would like look at the Slayer stuff and be like, this is awesome. And then I would look at the Grateful Dead, I'd be like, there's something wrong there. Like, I don't know what the hell. It just creeped me out. Like, you know, it's just, and then I would put the record on. I'd be like, was the wrong record in the sleeve? Like, you know, I'd be like, it looked all scary and shit. And then you'd play it and you'd be like, how is this?
Some kind of mind game.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't make any sense to me, which is just hilarious now to think.
Because you got like Slayer and stuff. It's like on purpose supposed to be just intense.
Yeah.
Like that's part of
it. Was like cartoonish, you know?
Yeah.
You know, like.
That's what people are like, you're, you know, like all the dark demon stuff. And I'm like, man, that stuff just looks cool to me.
Yep.
It's like in Godzilla or horror movies.
Yeah,
like
looking at Eddie on the cover of an Iron Maiden record. You're like, that's so cool.
Hell yeah. But a lot of people are just like, whoa, that's like dark. And I'm like, I don't think it is, you know, to me, I just like love that shit. You get it too. I mean, I was raised, you know, with my parents, wasn't crazy diverse in the music. Obviously, you know, went through like the 90s and early 2000s. You had like Fuel and Collective Soul and all that stuff. But my dad was always like hair metal and, you know, Slayer, Black Sabbath, Metallica, all that. And my mom, it was like Southern rock. So like Skynyrd, you know,
we played a lot of Skynyrd in my house.
Oh man, I love Skynyrd too. Like that stuff never gets old. But that was like my music, you know, mash up growing up. It's dope stuff. We not much country in our house, so
yeah. I mean, to fast forward a little snippet years later, I actually was traveling, going up to go snowboarding with a buddy of mine's dad who was a big hunter. He used to be a New York City firefighter. He was a first responder actually at 9/11. And really rad guy. But I remember we were driving and he was playing like David Allan Coe, Hank Williams Jr.
Yeah.
Just a lot of that type of stuff. Hank Williams Sr. and, you know, maybe playing, you know, just Waylon Jennings and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, you claim that you grew up on country and you don't know this stuff? And I'm like, no, I don't know this stuff. Yeah. And it unlocked something for me because I was like, that's the missing link. Because I was always like, why is there Johnny Cash and everybody else seems lame? Like, you know, like Johnny Cash is just this enigma. And I was like, oh, wait, that's the bridge between Johnny Cash and all these other
cool
pop
dudes.
Country guys that I know. And it's weird because thinking back on it now, I'm like, I think it's interesting that I was kind of like some Garth Brooks I like, some I didn't. Because now, like, now that I've gotten into more of that outlaw country stuff, I think that he was a bridge between that really good outlaw country and the pop country that came after it. I think he was kind of the connector between the two. But yeah, going back to that era though, when I was a little kid, because of who my father was, I always got this feeling growing up that I was the oldest kid. I had my stepbrother, and then I had or my half brother rather, and then I had 3 cousins that I grew up with.
Yeah.
And I was the oldest. And I always kind of felt like a lot of my family treated me as like a total outsider. You know, it's like been a theme for my whole life. And I just like, it's because of who my dad was, you know, like they kind of saw me as like a mistake, a problem child. Like, you know,
oh yeah.
My one uncle who turned me on to a lot of cool stuff, he never treated me that way. But like most of the rest of my family, like I always kind of felt like I wasn't really part of the family. And I had this one uncle who was like, he was maybe 10 years older than me. So you think about it, I'm like 4 years old at the time. And like, everybody's young, they got to work and everything. My grandma's got to work, everything. So like he would get left to watch me sometimes, you know, and like he would have his friends from high school come over and everything. And I think he was getting bullied at school a lot. I think he was, you know, kind of dealing with his own stuff with being a teenager, but like he didn't really want to take care of me or watch me, even though he was kind of made to do so. So I remember being a little kid, and my brother's 3 years younger than me, so he was only like an infant, you know, he's like 1. And he wouldn't want to watch me. So basically I remember him like taking me and putting me in my brother's crib, stacking up like hundreds of pounds of stuff and just locking me in there like a cage for hours. And then he would let me out and he would be like, he's like, dude, if you tell your mom, I'll beat the shit out of you. So I wouldn't say anything. He would let me out 10 minutes before she'd get home. And one day she came home early and found him like that. And I remember her getting fucking pissed, you know, like,
yeah, that's messed up.
There was another time when I was maybe like 5 or 6, him and his buddy, this guy, Eric, they used to come over all the time. I was alone with them and, they probably spent an hour telling me all about how they were all these like, ghosts and monsters in the basement and all these other things. And again, like I'm watching horror movies and stuff.
Making you paranoid as shit.
You didn't have to do much to get my imagination going because it was already there from me watching horror movies at way too young of an age. So they're just going on and on and on. And eventually they just picked me up, threw me in the basement and locked me down there for like 2 hours.
That's so fucked.
Yeah.
It's sad, man.
I remember screaming and punching that door and everything else. And like, you know, again, it was just like, when they finally let me out, it was just like, you tell anybody, I'll kick the living shit out of you.
You know, and like to some, it may not seem like a big of a deal, but that's like some deeply traumatic shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Especially like hearing the dynamic, like, you know, your dad wasn't around really. And you said your mom struggled kind of deeply too.
My
you know
mom
what I'm saying?
struggled a lot.
Yeah. And so it was just a very, and then you're with grandma, but like there's all these people in there. So you're not getting.
There's only so much she can do.
Exactly.
You know, she can only keep an eye on so many people.
I just had like a pretty rough day and I ate an edible. I got back, you know, she gave me an edible. I was drinking a glass of wine. It was like a Friday night. And like that edible hit me hard. And she's like, Joe, like, and she told me she was pregnant. And I was just like, you know, and I just like sat down on the bed, like really slowly. I was like, and she was like, what's wrong? And I was like, nothing. And she was like,
timing.
That's the whole thing. She was like, you did not seem excited. And I was like, I'm really high right now. Like, I don't know what else to say. This is huge news. And my state of mind is like super stoned, but I was pumped, you know, but it was just like
hard to express
the timing. I was like, baby, could have waited till the next morning, you know, I'm like, oh, I'm pregnant, you know, but I was, you know,
actually probably if you had any sort of hangover, that probably would have cured it real quick.
Yeah, exactly. You know? I mean, it's the best news I ever got. My daughter's the best thing in the world, man.
It's amazing.
I'll be thinking of you guys. Y'all deserve it, man. And like, there's nothing better, bro.
Yeah.
It just like, whatever purpose you have, it like ignites it so much more. And I know you resonate with that because, you know, we think very similarly with stuff like that, right?
Dude, like I was saying, I feel like every step along the way in my adult life has been just taking on more and more leadership. And I'm like, this is the next form of leadership.
Oh, yes.
That's what it is.
Dude, I look at like, you know, the past few years, man, like I'll tell you now, like I've talked to, before we jump back into it, I've talked to a lot of people and I mean, there's times in that building, man, like a lot of marriages would not have made it through just because like the struggle, man, and the stress and the hours and all of it and the sacrifice my family's had to make, you know, and man, like the entrepreneurship journey for me has been spiritual as fuck. You know, if I could say one word, it's been spiritual. Like
I completely agree.
But that being said, you know, it's like no matter what, I have to keep going. Like just as simply as my daughter being in my life, you know, because I'm the example. I want her to achieve great things. Every night I put her to bed, I'm like, you're going to do amazing things. I'm so proud of you. Yeah. Like I just repeat the same things, you know, I'm like, you're so beautiful. You're going to be a light to the world. Like, it's just this repetitive stuff. Cause I'm just, and I'm ingraining that in her mindset.
You see so many people who didn't get that.
Yeah, dude, it's so important, man. And I want her to have that belief in herself, but also, you know, my actions have to follow through. So I'm not going to quit because like, what does that teach her? If I expect these great things of her, she's like, well, dad quit because it got too hard. Dude, I wouldn't be able to live with myself, you know, and it just ignites that fire. Anyways, dude, it's such a powerful thing, man. Yeah, I'll be thinking of you guys. I really hope it works out because there's nothing like it, you know? Yeah. So parenthood is shit. It is. How old are you, by the way?
35.
Oh, shit. We're the same age.
Yep.
So when were you born?
Born in 1990.
What month?
May.
I was born in April.
Yeah.
April 1990.
You got to be beat by
barely.
a
April 6th, man.
May 31st. Yeah.
Nice.
Dead middle of the year.
Dang, dude. That's pretty wild. Yeah. So now's a good time too, man. And, you know, I've talked about this a lot. You know, I know a lot of people had kids early. And I'm not knocking that. I think that's great. You know, I mean, it's a totally different perspective because you got to like You're growing up too. My
Yep.
sister had my first niece at 18.
Dude, that's kind of one of the, like what I was saying with my childhood, like growing up. Now it's like that I'm older. I realized that these characters that I grew up with, I saw them as adults, but like realistically, they were like anywhere between like high school to like early 20s.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I was relying on these people to like be adults, and they weren't really adults, you know, like.
I didn't figure out who I was till I was like damn near 30.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's cool because like now I know who I am, so I get to like devote so much focus into her becoming.
And honestly, knowing who you are helps you weather the storm of life,
Yeah.
you know, because it's like, I like, you know, anybody out there in the world can say whatever the fuck they want about me or anything like that. I know the content of my own soul. I
Dude.
know what I'm capable of. I know who I am. You know, like I'm cool with the man in the fucking mirror.
Yeah.
You know, yes, like sometimes I got to be like, hey, man, you got to keep fucking pushing. You know, you got to be your own fucking coach in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you know, there's definitely improvements to be made. But like, I'm at peace with the guy. I'm
Yeah.
not fucking, you know, like.
To your point, yes, I can stare in the mirror and be like, yes.
Yeah.
You know, and like, don't get me wrong, like authenticity is my pursuit, right? So it's just like, I'm going to be ripping off masks till the day I die.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't mean I've made it, but I know who I am right now. And now I'm just focused on the growth of that.
One of my favorite kind of quotes I tell myself all the time is confidence naturally follows competence. You know, I think it's so stupid when like you go into like some therapy office and they tell you got to have confidence. It's like, well, if you have no competence, then that's just fucking blowing smoke up your own ass. But so it's like, for me, I look back on my own life and everything that I've overcome. I don't need to have an inflated confidence because I'm like, I accomplished all that shit.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing pretty good. You
Dude,
know,
right?
You just look at the resume. You're like, I can't deny that.
Yeah.
You know, like, because it's there.
The proof's just in the experience.
Yeah. So I don't have to sit here and like say affirmations in the fucking mirror because I'm just like, the resume's right there.
But let's dive back into your story.
Cool. Let's do it.
So we were talking about, you know, talking about your childhood and whatnot. I forget what we got to right when we were cutting off. Unless you can remember, I do have a question about that though.
Sure. I was just kind of, I remember where we were at, and I just was going to say, I have this core memory actually. Like I was saying, my uncle was probably bullied himself. And I actually remember he did something like something that really upset me. And I remember actually one day he used to walk to and from school with a skateboard because he was always worried about being jumped on the way to school. And then he would also, so I knew he was going to school soon. So I hid his skateboard, and then he would also bring socks with batteries in them to school. And I remember taking the batteries out of all of his socks and hiding them like under the couch. And he started sobbing as he was leaving to go to school because he was worried about him getting his ass kicked on the way to school. And I remember like sitting there and just like smirking because I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that to me. I don't even remember what he did.
He was, and that's the thing. He was taking, you know, the saying, hurt people, right?
Yep.
You know, I go back to my childhood thing. Like, I had to also understand that, like, I don't believe people are born evil.
No.
I truly don't. I think we're all, it's purity. And unfortunately, the conditions of which we're born into are what mold us, right? I have to, like, show him that shadow compassion. Like, that guy did what he did, but, and not defending his actions by any means.
No.
Well, they're wrong.
Yep.
But what happened to him? Some action happened to him. I truly believe in my heart that led him to do what he did. You know,
that's the whole thing. Learning about kind of my family history now and everything like that.
So you can see like your uncles and stuff.
It seems like like just like a lot of people in my family, man. There's a lot of trauma, a lot of like unresolved stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, in a lot of ways, it's like having to walk away because it seems like people are either too immersed or unwilling to do the work to kind of break that kind of cycle.
A lot of people in my life, like yourself, you talking about that. A lot of people I know are breaking those generational chains.
And that was a big part of me getting sober, like not for nothing, eventually finding that, you know, like, and I had seeds of that planted much earlier, but to me now being 5 years in, I feel like it's a final breaking point for me, like breaking a lot of that stuff, because a lot of the people, it's kind of a chicken or the egg situation, you know, like, yes, these traumatic things have happened to a lot of people in my kind of family tree, but like, there's also a lot of substance abuse and that kind of stuff and drinking and all these kind of things. And it's like, you know, I actually remember my mom telling me all the time that, like, when I was growing up, like, oh, we just don't have good genetics, like, for, like, you know, not having 10 extra pounds on your body, or like, you know, being athletic, or all this kind of stuff and everything. And I think it's interesting now because I have like one or two distant family members that are like completely sober now. And like, they both are like competitive athletes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, did we have bad genetics, or was just everybody drinking and doing drugs and living a toxic lifestyle?
Probably just excuses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, wow, amazing. You take the fucking drugs out and it seems to just work miracles, you know?
Right.
Like,
something that simple.
yeah.
But it ends up being, but it also is so complex at the same time because of all those different things. I'm curious, you know, growing up in that dynamic, what impact would you say that had on your identity? Because there was a lot of different, there's a lot of different factors there, you know, between your father and your mother and your grandmother.
Yeah, it just being super chaotic and stuff. I feel like it taught me a type of resiliency. And I feel like I was the type of kid that everybody always told me, like, I was so mature, I was so grown up, because like I really had to keep it together.
Yeah.
And my mom had a lot of resentment towards just men in general. I actually remember being a young kid, and my mom used to tell me all the time, my mom would cry and apologize to me that I was born a man. She was like, it'd be so much easier if you were born a woman. I'm so sorry. You know, like,
Damn.
She would tell me like all men grow up to be abusers, all men grow up to be abandoners, like all men are like I remember I was a little kid. My mom would tell me like all male sexuality is predatory by nature. It's always violent. It's always, you know, like, and I remember when I became like a teenager, there were times where I would like any girl that would come over my house, even if I wasn't dating her, my mom would take her aside and be like, be careful around my son and his friends because they may seem nice now, but they will change eventually.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And like I had to do a lot of work to get through all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, I feel like probably around my mid-20s was when I started like kind of trying to get to the bottom of what it actually means to be a positive masculine person, and kind of parsing out a lot of those like early Nietzschean ideas that like ended up kind of showing me a pathway.
Yeah. You had this understanding, not to interrupt, but you had an understanding like, it's almost like you were conditioned to think that you were a terrible man.
Yeah.
But for what? You know, but just because that was her belief.
And that compounded with the kind of feeling like an outsider in my own family in general because of who my father was. I just felt like there was this overwhelming amount of like shame, like for things I couldn't control.
Yeah.
Just for like the things that I was born with, you know, like,
yeah.
And it kind of turned me into like, you know, we were just saying off camera, like, you know, knowing the content of your own soul, it really makes it so I don't care what other people think about me, because I grew up and I was always judged for who I was before I even did anything.
Yeah.
And I spent so much time in my life trying to overcompensate for that, being like the nicest person around. But like I've progressively made myself look sketchier and sketchier over the years, you know,
Yeah.
like getting face tattoos. Like I got 666 tattooed on my neck. I like run this sketchy tattoo shop. We're known as the shop with all the upside down crosses on the walls.
Yeah.
I literally have a whole wall with hundreds of upside down crosses
And you almost like do it on purpose.
Yeah. Cause I'm like, if you're not willing to look beyond that, you know, because like I have a sterling personal reputation with everyone.
Yeah.
I'm honestly, I'm one of the few people I've ever met that I think could confidently say, you could take every ex-girlfriend I've ever had, put them in this chair and ask them about me, and almost none of them would have anything negative to say.
Yeah.
Maybe they would say like, oh, things didn't work out between me and Pat, but you know, like that's basically it, you know, like, and most people, like they couldn't have, you know, friends they had a falling out with anybody, but like, I'm like, you could stick ex-girlfriends here. And I would be willing to say most of them would probably have nothing but good things to say about me.
Hell yeah, man.
You know?
I don't doubt it either.
Yeah.
You know, saying like, I've always heard nothing but good things about you, but just from my interaction with you like this, I'm like, dude, this is a good you're a solid individual, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. 100%. So, and that's good. So you've held yourself to a higher standard, you know?
I kind of had to, you know, like I feel like when I got to jump forward a little bit, I feel like when I was a teenager, I was always like a very depressed kid.
Yeah.
I always was quiet. I kept to myself. I have a kind of like most people would probably hear the way that I talk about music and think I have some sort of autism, because like I remember I could tell you what haircut Henry Rollins had on every single Black Flag record.
Really?
I can tell you who recorded, like, you know, all these different things. I know where like recording studios were, who mixed and mastered things, who played bass on this one.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, I know so much. Like, you name a musician, I'll tell you 12 bands he was in, like all this kind of stuff. I know it, and it's like, it honestly comes from when I was a teenager. Like, I used music as a way to like escape. So I remember spending hours, I would skateboard or ride my bike for miles, and I would just listen to music, and I became obsessed with it. And like, you know, for me, Black Flag was the really big one. And like it like Nietzsche, which I actually found through Black Flag. It was one of those things that I felt like the longer I spent with it, the more it started to change me mentally as a person and set me up for the person I am now.
Yeah.
But when I was that teenager, I was so down and depressed, and like, I didn't really see a reason to continue living if life was the way that it had been presented to me.
Yeah.
You know, with my mom telling me all these things about how toxic it is to be a man and all this stuff and everything else. And, you know, all the men in my family, like, you know, even my uncle that was cool to me and everything. I mean, he was a truck driver and he was pretty miserable, and he had substance abuse issues and all that kind of stuff. My grandmother, as sweet of a lady as she was, she had her drinking problems. She died very young. She died when I was 16 years old. Damn. It just, all the women in my family, for the most part, worked in kitchens. Most of the men worked in like driving trucks of some sort, and they all just lived for getting drunk on the weekends. And for me, like, I saw high school and being a teenager as like just time ticking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, once this is over, like, that's going to be my life. And I didn't see any other option. I was like, is there really a point to living if that's it?
Yeah, that was your whole perception.
Yeah.
Of
I
what
didn't
the
have
future would be.
any positive, but when I put my headphones on and I listened to Black Flag, and you know, these guys had purpose. They had, like, you know, I remember Mike Vallely, the pro skateboarder, who I really looked up to too.
Yeah.
Mike V was like,
yeah, dude.
Yo.
I was a big skateboarder when I was a kid too. Yeah. Mike V was the shit.
It was all about Mike V.
Yes.
And I remember him saying that before he even decided he wanted to be a professional skateboarder, when he went and got into punk music and got into Black Flag, he was like, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, but whether it was flipping burgers or whatever, I was going to do it the way Black Flag would do it.
Sick.
And I remember him saying that, and I'd be like, yeah, whatever I do, I want to do it like Black Flag would do it.
Hell yeah.
But before I got there, I remember I was dating this chick. I was 16 years old, and there was this 19-year-old chick that I actually met in driver's ed. And my parents kind of wanted me to start driving immediately. So I was able to get a junior license through driver's ed, because basically, like, you know, me being independent meant that I didn't need to be taken care of as much. So go get yourself a license, go get yourself a job, and, you know,
figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, figure it out. So I was in driver's ed, and this chick was in there basically just trying to get her insurance down or whatever. And she she was smoking hot. This girl was like, everybody was kind of intimidated by this chick and everything else. And she took a liking to me. And I was honestly fucking afraid of her. Like, she scared the crap out of me. And she basically came up to me after like class one day and just handed me her phone number. And she's like, you're taking me to the movies tonight. Show up. Here's my house.
Pressure's on.
Yeah. And honestly, dude, like, at that point in my life, I was just really interested in music and skateboarding and shit. Like, I wasn't even, like, you know, trying to chase a girlfriend or nothing. I was interested in getting to the skate park as quick as possible.
But it came to you.
Yeah. And it was funny because, like, all my friends, I'd be like, dude, I'm like, this older chick's coming on to me and all this and that. And they were just kind of like, dude, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear about it. Like, you know, she's fucking hot. Just enjoy it. And I'm like, dude, but I'm confused. I don't know what to do. And she would show up to driver's ed, the driving portion, fucking wasted drunk. There was this old man fucking driving, and she'd be like grabbing on me and shit and trying to like reach into my pants in the back seat of the driver's ed car.
Dude, this is intense. That's intense. Yeah. I mean, it's like something out of a movie.
Yeah, dude, it was like, and again, I'm like fucking 16. I don't know what to do. And I remember though, I started kind of booking shows and stuff, just local like basement shows. And I had a bunch of bands come and play at my house on Halloween one year. And I got in an argument with some of my friends and stuff. And I ended up kind of getting in an argument with her in my driveway. My grandma was dying, so my mom and my dad were on edge and everything else. And just, it really compounded with the feeling of directionlessness that I had felt up to my life and feeling like all this stuff. And then everything that happened that night, I remember just feeling like I don't want to be alive anymore.
Yeah.
And I remember I went into the bathroom in my house and I just started opening up medicine doors and just eating every pill I could find. I drank an entire bottle of Robitussin. I wasn't even looking to see what it was.
Just whatever.
Whatever. It was. I probably ate a whole bottle of fucking Advil for whatever, Just
yeah.
like every single thing. I just started downing everything and I just went in my room and went to sleep and hoped I'd never wake up again.
Just like that, you just snapped into I don't know. You went from one moment to just like trying everything.
Well, again, because it was just like, I thought to myself, like, what's the fucking point? And then you have one particularly bad night. Like that was like a depression that had been rolling with me for a long time. But then you have one particularly bad night where things just seem stacked up and you're like, fuck it, whatever, fuck it. And the funny thing is I had a bad experience with pills prior to that. Cause when I was 13, again, I was into like all this kind of like pretty mature music for somebody my age.
Yeah.
Like I was still in the junior high or whatever, but I met all these guys that were in bands from the high school that I went to. And they were all these crusty punk dudes and skaters and stuff and everything. And they were like, holy shit, this kid knows like some good music. You should come to our house parties. So I remember me and a buddy of mine whose like parents also didn't really give a shit what he was doing. We ended up shoplifting like maybe 2 or 3 40 ounces each of Old English from like a gas station. We go to this like punk house party. We go inside, me and him are like sipping on our beers with our skateboards there and everything, just trying to be cool. Like, probably the next youngest person at this party was 16, 17, and then on up from there.
Yeah.
And I remember there was this guy walking around and he was all fucked up on something. And I had never seen somebody like me and him had drank a couple of times at that point. We'd had some beers. We were drinking malt liquor, just shoplifting stuff. And this guy came up to me and he was just like, yeah, I'm so messed up. I don't even want these. You want them? And I'm just trying to be cool. So like he hands me some pills. I just take them. Completely blacked out. I don't remember anything that happened for the rest of that night. Next thing I know, I wake up on the floor of the basement of this like a finished basement, but it was like at this, punk party. And there's a bunch of people like on couches and on the floor, on the carpet and everything, just like asleep. And there's like fast food wrappers all over the fucking place.
Yeah.
And everything feels weird. Like it almost feels like I'm like underwater or something. And like, I'm looking around the room and I'm confused, like where I am and stuff. And I hear somebody vomiting and I start looking around the room and I'm like, who's throwing up? It looks like everybody's asleep and it sounds loud. And I look down at my own shirt and I have like half digested food running down my shirt. I was so fucked up on painkillers that I didn't even feel myself vomiting.
Dude.
Yeah.
I've been there, man.
So the next day, the punk guy who like invited me to this party, I told him that like somebody gave me pills and he asked around and eventually found out who it was. And it turns out I believe they were called like Watson 1000 Vicodins. And I took a couple of them. And from what I heard after that, they were like, dude, you could have died. Like, absolutely, you could have fucking died. The people were like surprised I didn't die.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, painkillers and alcohol and opiates and stuff, that used to be my thing when I was a little bit younger before I went to the military. But yeah, dude,
I'm
surprised I didn't die. Yeah.
I've stayed so clear of that stuff. Like I had friends later in high school who got into that stuff and I was like, nope, been there, done that.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I had this kind of like, which it took me a while to even admit, it was a suicide attempt when I was 16.
Yeah.
That was my first time really like diving back into the pills, but I thought that was going to be the end for me.
Damn.
I kind of came out of that and I woke up and I remember again waking up the next day like fucked up. Like, like I remember the room kept turning and then like I would blink and it would be back and it would just keep turning. And I remember being like that for a few hours and just kind of sitting locked in my room and waiting for it to pass.
Did you feel any kind of regret for trying to do that?
I don't know. I don't really remember.
Yeah.
I remember just going about life and just, continuing to think, yeah, well, that didn't work. But around that time, I met a kid that was in my grade who was also like, crusty punk skater kid.
Yeah. His
dad was like, kind of had this house where he let all the kind of stray kids that didn't have anywhere to go come and hang out at the house. And he was into collecting medieval suits of armor. He was like a prepper guy. He like reloaded bullets and like was big into, just shooting. He had bow and arrows. He was into like medieval weaponry and like cool music. He had tons of books. He was just, he actually used to show us these VHSs called The Poor Man's James Bond. It was like a video series that was like kind of like the Anarchist Cookbook, but it was this guy who was super paranoid that the Russians were going to invade any day. So he would like teach you how to like make homemade improvised, like, injection like based like poisons and shit to like kill Russian soldiers when they're like taking over your local neighborhood. You know, and all that kind of stuff. So he turned us on to a bunch of cool shit, but I was like, he was older than my parents, probably closer to my grandmother's age. So again, my grandmother died really young. I think she was in her early 60s.
Yeah.
And this guy was probably late 50s. And he rode a Harley to work every day. And he seemed genuinely happy with his life. And he was probably the first adult I had met that seemed genuinely happy with his life. And he was a tattoo artist.
Oh.
And I said, I want to do that. And this is like after I had like, you know, decided I didn't want to be around anymore. And I'm like, no, that's the thing. And, you know, at the time I was playing a lot of music and stuff, and I was playing in bands and shit. And I remember kind of thinking like, nah, man, fuck the guitar. I had friends that actually like even were a few years older than me that I was good friends with who kind of hit what I thought was the jackpot as a band. You know, like my good friends are in Rivers of Nile.
Oh yeah. They're big.
I grew up with those guys. They're like one of the biggest death metal bands in the world now.
Yeah, they're
I'm like
huge.
Super proud of those guys. And I have friends that are in a couple other like really big bands. And I remember being like, what the fuck do you mean you sold out a show in Japan and you have to come home and work a fucking part-time job to make ends meet? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I was like, you know what? Music is not going to be my out. Like, it's not going to be the way for me to escape that like life of driving a truck. You know, it's just not viable. But I saw what my friend's dad was doing, and I was like, that looks like a pretty rad life. So fuck the guitar. I'm going to learn how to draw. Yeah. People assume all the time, like, you're a tattoo artist. And like, I've won awards. I'm like, you know, I all this kind of stuff and everything. And then like people are like, oh, you must have been born with it. I was like, no, not really. I mean, like I had an artistic brain again, cause I was playing music and stuff, but like, I was not particularly into drawing. I mean, I wrote graffiti actually, but that was like the only artistic. And for me, that was like a form of nihilism. If anything, it was just going out and fucking up other people's shit, you know, like,
take this.
Yeah, exactly. You know, fuck you world. Like, you know, that kind of thing. But, you know, I wasn't really into art until I saw my friend's dad and I was like, no, that's what I want to do.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you're like, you had no idea about any of that. And then so you just decided to take on a completely different skill.
Yep.
And you wanted to succeed at it.
I got to the end of high school and I was like, all right, let me go try and find an apprenticeship. And I remember I went around to a lot of the tattoo shops in my area and nobody wanted to teach me. And admittedly, like I didn't have a lot of skills. I was not very good at drawing. I probably had a chip on my shoulder. I felt like it was kind of owed to me because I felt like I had this kind of like outsider status, you know, so like me, this outsider culture, like I should be just welcomed in, you know, like, and thinking back on it, I think I that wasn't owed to me.
You felt
know,
entitled.
Like, yeah. But, you know, I kind of felt like I was just going to be Mr. Cool Guy, walk in and they'd be like, absolutely, you could fuck a tattoo. So,
yes,
the chick I was dating at the time, and honestly thinking back on it, like, I don't know what the hell I was doing in this relationship, but she was going to a really expensive, prestigious art school at the time. And, you know, her family was a lot more well off than mine. She, you know, and I was just going to community college because I had just graduated. My life was like absolute chaos at this point. So, but I was going to community college and just taking art classes there, doing the best I could, and then trying to get a tattoo apprenticeship. And I remember me trying to get this apprenticeship. And I remember one day she said to me, she was like, well, why do you want to be like a scumbag tattoo artist anyway? Why don't you be like a real artist? She's like, why don't you go to like a real respectable art school? Nobody's going to respect that you went to like community college and took some art classes. And at the time I was actually living in my car. The way that I ended up there was, my mother actually, after my grandmother had passed away when I was 16, she really went completely off the rails.
Yeah.
My mom was always like a little screaming tyrant of a woman, dude. Like absolutely, like, you know, I'd get the cops called on my house all the time when my mom just screaming and yelling like domestic stuff like all the time growing up. She was just, and she struggled with substance abuse stuff and everything else. And my mom was known for, when I was growing up, my mom had an obsession with Camaros.
Yeah.
She used to crash them constantly. She would hit and run cars and just take off. She did it over and over and over again and everything else. And, you know, like, she never wanted to take accountability. She would make up stories and be like, no, they actually hit me. you know, like, or, you know, oh no, you must have gotten in an accident somewhere else. It wasn't me. You know, like, but your car has, it was just never taking accountability and like that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But once my grandmother passed away, she really went off the rails, and she started using and drinking a lot more. And her and my stepdad split up. They had been on and off several times. Honestly, it was better when they were split up. My brother, my half brother, was always much more close to my stepfather, and you know, I grew up as my mom's kind of you know, emotional dumping ground.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was like closer with my mom, and I felt bad for her because my brother was me like, well, I'm going with dad. So I was like, all right, I guess I got to go with mom. You know, she can't really take care of herself anyway. And she was working at like a bagel store at the time or whatever. And so I started living with her, which was really chaotic. She was just getting more and more like mentally delusional. I remember one day I came home and I was in the kitchen doing something, and all of a sudden she started wiping my face with like cold cuts. And I turned around and asked her what the fuck was her problem, and she just like dropped to the ground and started sobbing. And like I didn't know what to do or nothing. And then like I left to go up to the store, came back, and she had like cut herself up and like claimed that like somebody tried to break into the house and kill her, and like there was a bloody knife in the sink.
Damn, dude.
You know, like, and she'd done this several times, and like the police would come and everything, and she was using all kinds of stuff, and she would come in my room in the middle of the night, and like, you know, sometimes naked, sometimes she would throw stuff at me, she would scream at me, just start crying next to my bed.
It's really
Like
sad.
this. Yeah. And there was one day I remember I was working at Walmart full time while trying to put myself through community college. And I was paying most of the bills in the house, but money kept disappearing. She would make up stories where she just needed money, you know, like, and she would get really upset if like, she'd be like, oh, I need money for groceries. And then I would go out and buy the groceries. She'd be like really upset that I didn't give her the money. And I remember I kind of, because things were so chaotic at the house, at some point I was just like, I'd rather just sleep in my car. So I used to just sleep in my car, like maybe half mile away from the apartment in case I needed something from there.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to sleep there. So I was just staying in the car. And she I remember one night I did stay there. She was all fucked up like late at night. And she had work in the morning, and working at a bagel store. She had to be at there like 3 or 4 in the morning or something. And I remember yelling at her and just being like, you better fucking sober up. You better fucking get your shit together. You got work in a couple fucking hours. You know, and she's a mess. She started, she had an ex-boyfriend. She started calling me his name and stuff and saying weird shit to me too. You know, she also like had like 12 locks, like deadbolts installed on her front door, and would put wood down in front of it. Damn. And like just was really paranoid. And I remember waking up because I set my alarm, and I need to be up for school and everything a couple hours after to make sure that she got to work. I woke up and she was like a mess. And like, I was like, I helped her get up, threw her in the shower. I was like, get ready for work. You're fucking going. I don't care. You're going to work. And again, I'm 18 years old. She's a grown ass woman. And I'm like, get your shit together, get in the fucking car, go to work. She drove to work. She got fired immediately because she was so fucked up at work. Drove home. So now she doesn't have a job. I'm the only one paying anything. And then one day I'm working at Walmart, and she calls me up and is basically like, oh, I'm sick. I went to the doctor. I need money for a prescription, you know, this kind of stuff. And I was like, I only have like $40. I need gas to get to and from work. I need to feed myself the rest of the week. Like, it's all I have. You know, and she's like, oh, well, I need $20 to pick up this medication so that I can get better. Can I come up to your job and grab the money from you? I'm like, I guess I'm going to have to figure it out. She comes up, and all of a sudden now she needs the $40. You know, when she gets there. So I was like, all right, just take it. I don't know what to say. And she kept harping on the fact that I wasn't paying my car insurance, which I was actually. I paid it, but she kept insisting that I wasn't. And telling me if I wasn't going to pay it, I had to turn in my license plates. And I was like, I'm not turning in my license plates. I've been paying it. I get off of my shift at like, you know, 10:30 or whatever at night. I go out to the car, and my license plates are missing off my car after she just took the $40 from me, like 2 hours prior. So I'm like, what the fuck? Like, where are my license plates? And I lived only like a mile or two down the block. So I drive my car to the house, you know, fully expecting to confront her and being like, give me my fucking license plates back. I show up at the house and she had this Acura RSX, like a luxury sports car that like was this close to getting repoed because I couldn't make payments on it. You know, like I'm driving around an old beat up Mitsubishi, and the RSX was parked in front of our apartment, crooked, smoke coming out of it. It had like a fucking tree lodged in the front of it. All the windows busted out. The thing looked like it had been through a damn war.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what the fuck? And like, it didn't look like it was there for that long. So I went over to the door and the wood was down. So I couldn't get in. I'm knocking on the door. I'm like, let me in. Let me in. No answer. I hear footsteps going up and down the stairs though, because it was one of those apartments where you walk in and it's immediately steps.
Yeah.
And I climb around the back. I go around to the back. There's like a balcony. So I climb up the side of the building. I get up there and I'm trying to open up the glass door in the back and I can't get it open. And eventually I end up calling a friend of mine and I'm like telling him the situation. I'm like, dude, I feel like I'm dreaming right now. He's like, all right, dude, just drive the back roads to my house. You can come stay with me tonight. And I was like, all right, thank you, dude. Like I got class early. I gotta get some sleep, dude. This is crazy. I don't know what the hell's going on. Apparently soon after I left, the SWAT team came and busted down the door and took her away to prison because she got in a hit and run accident, driving under the influence, all this other stuff on top of all of her other charges that she had previously for like, they threw the book at her.
Yeah.
When the complex we lived in found out that I was the only one still living there because, you know, I had been sleeping in my car a bunch and everything and kind of transitioning to that. But then when she was gone, I was like, all right, now I can go there. I was there for a few days and they found out that she had gotten arrested and they were basically like, well, technically you need to be at least like, I think it was 25 or something to have your name on the lease. And since you're the only person there, you're too young to be the only person there. So you got to go. So they kicked me out. So I had nowhere to go and I was just living in my car. I remember brushing my teeth, like, you know, in a parking lot somewhere on my way to, you know, go to college and stuff. And so when that ex-girlfriend of mine told me like, you know, hey, you should, you know, apply to art school. I was like, fuck it, whatever. What do I got to lose?
Yeah.
So I started applying to art schools and I ended up getting into the rival school of her school, kind of a late acceptance sort of thing. And I took out every single loan I possibly could. This was an insanely expensive. And I told myself, I was like, if this doesn't work out, you just off yourself. Try again next reincarnation. Like, fuck it. I'll sign every dotted line.
There was like a pact.
Yeah. Yeah. It was exactly that. I was like, if this doesn't work out, there's, you know, I don't have any other option. So I remember I put my car up on like Craigslist or something, sold it for a couple $100, hopped on the train and went to New York City. And I never really spent time in New York City, but class for me was starting in a couple days. And I had nowhere to go. They were out of housing. Like they couldn't give me any student housing or anything or whatever. And I was like, fuck it, I'll figure it out. So I went to New York City and my classes, my art school, actually, it was called School of Visual Arts. It's in Manhattan on 23rd Street, right near 2nd Avenue. And most of my classes actually ran from like, I want to say noon or 1 o'clock till some nights I was at school till like 11:30. I had like a painting class that let out at like 11:30 p.m. And there's not really like a traditional college campus at this school. It's kind of just like you walk out of there's like buildings scattered all around Manhattan.
Yeah.
That like the school will have like the 2nd, 3rd, 7th, and 8th floor of this random building, and the rest is like doctor's offices.
Yeah.
You know, like, and again, this is like a really prestigious art school, but like it being Manhattan, you know, it's just like, so you finish class and I'm just like out on the street. And because I had never been to New York City and, you know, it was getting cold. This was like getting towards the winter. I just would walk around all night. So I would leave class at, you know, anywhere from 9 to 11 p.m. and I would just pick a direction and start walking. And I would just walk and walk and walk all night until 7 a.m. The school library would actually open. And they had all these private study rooms with couches in them and stuff and everything. And because it was such an expensive art school, they didn't really like care what you did. So I would wait for the class to, the library to open up, and I would go into the library and I would just sleep for a couple hours until my class. And I did that for probably a couple months. And occasionally like one of my classmates would let me crash on like the floor of their dorm or something like that. I remember actually at another art school in Brooklyn, I met a guy who was like, he went home to Poughkeepsie like every weekend. He did Monday through Thursday in class and then he was gone and he had a dorm room and he was like, dude, if you can jump this tall ass fence, I'll leave the window open and you can sleep Friday, Saturday, Sunday there. And he was like a crusty punk dude. And he was like, dude, help yourself to ramen and everything. He was the man.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
That's cool.
Like,
yeah, he was looking out for you.
Yeah. He was a really good dude. And once he knew my situation, because I knew somebody else who like lived down the hall from him, and I met this guy. And he was like, well, dude, I'm only here 4 days a week. So if you want it the other days, like, help yourself.
That's dope, man. I do got a question before you get too much further into that. First of all, holy shit. What a wild chain of events, bro.
Yeah.
Listening to you talk about this is like every direction you looked, like there's no hope. Yeah. And of course you had this girl that said something kind of negative about like, oh, don't, tattoo artist,
Yep.
Too good for that. And you were out of desperation. You were like, maybe she's right. I need to like something different. I need to go off to this school and maybe find some opportunity, because like, it seems like almost every which way life was just trying to tear you apart.
Yep.
I do want to ask, do you have any kind of relationship with any of your family or anything like that?
For the most part, no. My stepfather, kind of me and him had a rocky relationship for a large part of my life. But now I want to say from maybe my late 20s, we kind of squashed a lot of that stuff and we're better than we've ever been.
That's good.
But, for the most part, though, I don't really have much connection. I've kind of started reconnecting with some of my cousins because they grew up in the same toxic environment I did.
Yeah.
We kind of distanced ourselves from each other once we became adults because, like, I have one cousin, she's got a bunch of kids, she's got a happy marriage, all this kind of stuff. And we kind of just went our separate ways because we didn't want to bring each other down.
Yeah,
but we all just kind of distanced ourselves from the family as a whole too, though.
It's just toxic if we're around each other, so it's best we just cut ties.
Exactly.
And it sucks, man. And, just to hear you had to go through that, and you're hit with so much responsibility at 18, like for your mom and stuff, man.
Yep.
That's heavy. Reflecting on it, would you say, you're trying to get her shit together, you were stressed out?
Yep.
How would you approach her now? Like looking back, obviously she had some healing she needed to do, but at the time you don't know how to go about that. Like some people, you don't know how to help somebody at certain stages, right?
Yeah.
Like me, if I could go, knowing who I am now, where I'm at, like it would be a no-brainer to be like, hey, let's get you some help.
Yep.
But as an 18-year-old kid, when all you knew was chaos, like how do you?
And I needed help at that point. In my
yeah,
life.
yeah, that too.
Like I was barely considered an adult, and most of my friends, my peers, and everybody, they were still living at home with their parents.
Yeah.
I was forced out on the street. And I'm thankful for that now because I think that that's a lot of the resiliency that I've built up now, and that strength, and like that, like able to weather any storm.
I see
because little shit that happens in life, I'm like, dude, I used to sleep on fucking park benches in fucking, I'm like, this isn't gonna break me. This isn't gonna
it's all gonna be okay.
Worse. Yep. And so I like I said, I used to just walk around Manhattan, and I got to know the city pretty well. And eventually I actually got an overnight job working at a dog daycare center because they did boarding, which was perfect because like as long as like my basic duties were taken care of for the night, I could actually do schoolwork there. And it gave me a place to go that was like warm and like, I was actually making some money. So I saved up a little bit of cash. And a guy that I went to high school with that I knew from playing in bands, he was a little older than me. We were never really close, but we like hung out with the same groups of people. He was living out in New York City, and he had got a DWI out on Long Island, and basically was having to take public transit to get to and from work. He ended up losing his job because public transit was super unreliable.
Yeah.
And then he decided, because like they kept dragging out his court case and everything like that with the DWI, he was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to move to New York City where I don't need a car.
Yeah.
And he was having trouble making ends meet out there, and he was living in this like slum house in Bed-Stuy, across the street from the Marcy projects, famous projects, and the Tompkins projects, on this little street called Stockton Street. It's a 1-block street that connects two infamous, horrible project housing.
Yeah, I've probably seen pictures of it.
Yeah. So like the Marcy playground was directly across the street from my house, and like that's where Jay-Z and a bunch of other rappers kind of came from and everything like that. But it's right in the middle of Bedford-Stuyvesant, and we were staying there, and I want to say this was probably a 5-bedroom apartment, a pretty big place, but we had like 12 people living there. It was just packed out, and my friend was like, dude, $250 a month, you could sleep on a little love seat couch in my bedroom. And it was better than what I had at the time, and the place was roach infested. There was constant crime, people stealing from each other, everything else. Like it was just, and then when I moved in, that guy, he was just constantly like, he was a big Alex Jones guy.
Yeah.
Super conspiracy theory nut. And I'd come home, dude, and I needed to get some sleep for class the next day. He'd be fucking wasted drinking tequila and screaming about like, I don't understand the lizard people, adrenochrome. Do you understand what's on the dollar? Like, and I'm like, dude, I need to get some sleep.
Like, bro, it's been a long day.
He's like, there's no time for sleep. The reptile overlords. Like, you know.
Listen, you're concerned with that. We got cockroaches. All right, so we got to fix some other stuff first. Dude.
Funny thing with him though is he ended up meeting a Brazilian chick who was a foreign exchange student at a bar, and she started coming around, and she was going to NYU for like one semester, and her parents were super loaded down in Brazil, and he decided that he was just going to go with her to Brazil to visit and just never come back so that he wouldn't have to deal with his DWI. And he just married her and started having kids with her down there and just completely expatted.
And that's what he did.
Yeah.
So that's his life. He's in Brazil.
Yeah, he's in Brazil. He's like a fucking, I think he's a brown belt now in jiu-jitsu. He just competes down there. He's like on the beach sipping pina coladas and fucking.
Dude, what the hell?
He has like 3 or 4 kids, you know, and he just like can't come back to the U.S. because he's got a fucking outstanding DWI from fucking 15 years ago.
Isn't it crazy as how life just pans out like that? Like, who would have expected that shit?
So funny thing though is right the timing of when he moved out. Our landlord was trying to kick us out because he decided he wanted to turn the apartment we were living into a hostel. And I remember he started basically like vandalizing the landlord was vandalizing our apartment when everybody would leave. And I had this microwave in our bedroom that I was using to cook all my food. And I remember he started coming in and cutting cables off of our appliances, trying to basically get us out. And this guy, I remember hearing him argue with a guy who wasn't paying his rent in the hallway when I first moved in. And he was like, you think you badass? I badass. I slumlord. Jeez. I'm badass. I'm like, who the hell calls themselves a slumlord? Like, but this guy, he was trying to get everybody out. So he was doing everything he could and to try and get us to want to leave. And he cut the cable off of my my microwave. So I remember I walked all the way to the Atlantic Terminal Mall, which was probably like, it's where the Barclay Center is now, if anybody knows New York. But the mall's right across the street, and it's probably about an hour walk to my apartment. And there's not really a good train that goes between those two spots. You can take like a bus, but you know, I remember I went and bought a new microwave and I walked an hour carrying this microwave back to the apartment through the hood and everything. And just carrying a microwave.
Brand new microwave.
Plug it in, cook my dinner that night. Next day, he fucking cut the cable off it again. And this guy used to park his minivan in the same spot on our block all the fucking time. So I remember I go out on the street and I had the microwave in my hand. And I'm like, it's going through his fucking window, dude. It's going through his window. I'm like, you want a hostel? You got fucking hostiles. Like, you know, like this. And I'm furious. And my friend is walking next to me and he's saying, don't do this, dude. He's going to get you fucking arrested and then you're out. And that's exactly what he wants, dude. That's what he wants. And I was like, you're right. You're right. He talked me down. I put the microwave in a trash can right on the street corner, right next to the fucking minivan. Just walk back. I was fuming and he decided he was going to go. And I was like, you know what? I've already found another apartment. I had saved up enough money. I got into a much better apartment with this chick who was kind of friends of friends, and she was an artist too. She was into sculpture and stuff, and it ended up being like a really good setup. It was a nice apartment, much nicer area and everything, and so it already felt like I was moving on up. But the funny thing is probably 6 months after I had moved out of that slum apartment, I got a text message from a friend of mine, and he was like, "Yo, you remember our landlord? Here's a funny story." Sends me a link. I click on it. You could look this up. His name was Herman Epstein. He was a Hasidic landlord, slumlord. And he actually was going down for, I think it was like 9 years to prison for bribing a buildings inspector and all these corruption charges and stuff. So he ended up doing many years for corruption. That same guy that I almost threw a microwave through his window.
It all came back around.
Yep.
You know, it's like, it reminds me, man, so many times about have I wanted to get the last word or react towards certain people, even just in recent year, you know, but you realize, man, time always takes care of it for them.
By that point, I was like a junior in high school or in college. And honestly, I felt like I was really behind up until this point.
This isn't just a podcast. This is my life's work. Every episode, we dive deep into stories that matter. Pain, purpose, transformation. We're here to give people a voice, speak truth, and connect through something deeper than algorithms. If you value marketing through something that reflects your values and aligns with real impact, then this is your opportunity. Sponsorship isn't just support, it's fuel. It's how I keep this mission alive. It's how I continue to shine light on powerful, untold stories that need to be heard. If you want to reach people, not just through metrics, but through their hearts, their minds, and purpose, let's partner. Let's build something that matters.